The yield curve is basically a graphic depiction of interest rates in the economy, in that currency. Interest rates differ depending on the period of time to which they refer. You can have an overnight interest rate, which is the rate applicable for borrowing money for one night, or you could have a 10-year interest rate, which would be the rate applicable for borrowing money for 10 years. Or indeed, of course, it could be the rate applicable for depositing money for one night or for 10 years. So when you put that on a graph, essentially, a chart, you've got the yield curve. And we will talk about that in detail in Module 4, because it is, of course, the cornerstone of finance, the yield curve. So we need to be familiar with it and aware of it. But let's have a look at the yield curve itself in a stylized manner. That's simply a depiction of the shape of the curve and not an actual curve itself. We've got a positively sloping curve where the rates are going upwards the further out you go on the x-axis. And the x-axis, of course, is the term to maturity, and the y-axis is the interest rate. So as interest rates are rising, the further out along the term structure, the term to maturity I'm going, I've got a positively sloped curve. And if they are falling, I've got an inverted curve, or a negative sloping yield curve, which is the one on the right-hand side, which reflects particular features of the economy at the time. Now, you also get in certain countries, here we are in the UK, but just across the water, I am in the continental European Union, which is the Eurozone, and they have negative interest rates right now. And if you look at a yield curve for example, the German bond market, the German government bond market, it will look like the curve on the left-hand side, the positive slope, but even when you get to the top end of it there, it's still below zero. So it's a positively sloping yield curve reflecting negative interest rates. Let's talk about negative interest rates later on in the course.